One, and we are recording with Mr. Brian, aka the Beast. And for everybody wondering the fuck I'm wearing, it's a hoodie I made and it got in the mail today, and it's just King Tut. There's no more to it than that. It's just King Tut. So I look like,
Jazzy.
I know, right? I tried to make it just as, because it's just gold. So I tried to make it as ridiculous as possible. So I made the inside of the hood $100 bills, and
No, attaboy.
I just figured,
Attaboy.
hey, if it's gonna look, hold on, my camera's fucking up. I figured if I'm gonna make it look anything but respectful, I might as well go all in and make it shiny gold with dollar bills and
Well,
everything.
I just happen to have the same thing on my floor.
Oh, fuck
I
yeah.
got the $100 bill.
All right. And I got them on my hands. All right.
Yeah.
I'm in good company. But
Yeah.
for everybody listening, how about you introduce yourself, my man?
Yeah, I'm Brian Burnson. I'm a retired IRS special agent. Worked out of the Chicago field office for about 22 and a half years. Had a great career, a lot of fun. Um, did some interesting stuff, traveled the world. Um, it was just a great time, man. It was a great time. Um, Worked with some great people, worked with all the different agencies that are out there, FBI, DEA, Secret Service. And it was a great career, challenging at times, long hours, but very good. It's a very rewarding career.
And you spent time, I believe, in Afghanistan or Iraq, correct?
Yeah, we were over in Kuwait.
Kuwait.
I was on a procurement fraud task force for 7 years with the FBI and DCIS, Defense Criminal Investigation, and Army CID, and we did a trip over to Kuwait. For over there for about 9 days, I think, doing a bunch of interviews and running around over there, hitting the installations, Camp Arifjan and Camp Doha. So it was great.
I remember when I first spoke with you on the phone, I was just, I was trying to put the square peg into the round hole. I was like, IRS, but I was like
Yeah,
deployed overseas. It was, something wasn't
yeah,
jiving. Like I talked to Delta Force guys, and I've talked
yeah,
to like FBI, like domestic guys, but it was
yeah,
just weird. I was like, is he pulling my leg?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, and it's a lot of it's really strange like that, and I've gotten that from so many. What is IRS doing over there?
yeah.
And it's the IRS Criminal Investigation Division has got a very unique skill set. Um, our investigative school, 6 months total, down at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center down in Georgia, and we really focus on about, I think it's around 18 statutes, and it's all tax related stuff, money laundering, and Bank Secrecy Act, Title 31, financial crime stuff. So that's all we do. And we're forensic accountants, and we go out and we go in and start digging into numbers and see
Mhm.
what's going on and what's what, and find the criminal wrongdoing. It was great when I was working with the FBI, because I had several agents who are very dear friends yet today, and they're like, "Hey, we're working this procurement fraud stuff," and they're like, "Hey, you want to go with us? We got these interviews to do. We're going to go meet with a lawyer, and we got this interview to do." And I said, "Well, I'm not really involved in the case." And they would say, "Well, that's okay. They don't really care about the FBI, but when the IRS shows up, everybody buckles down." So
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, right? That's like I was gonna say that's like the not it wasn't the movies with Batman, but it was like the cartoon series when I was a kid. but there's like the Joker, and it's like the animated series,
Yeah.
and it's like the Joker's in his big vault. And I'm sure you've seen this before, but the Joker's in
Yeah.
the big for everybody listening. The Joker's in his big vault surrounded by like money and cash, and he's doing taxes. And one of his minions is like, why are you filling out your taxes?" And he was like, "I'll fight Batman every day," but he's like, "I'm not gonna fight the IRS. Like, what do you think? I'm insane." And it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but you're
Yeah.
right. That's kind of like right. That's kind of like Genghis Khan, like using catapults to like launch the severed heads of his opponents over into the village.
Yeah.
You bring the IRS,
Absolutely.
and everyone's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Yeah. And so when we got involved in the procurement fraud task force, I was the only IRS agent on the task force, and so it was the stuff we were working is super intensive. You know, contract fraud, millions and millions and millions of dollars. So we would get into this stuff, and we'd have to shake out the numbers. You know, is there bogus invoicing going on, ghost employees, all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff where people are, cutting corners and grabbing money, to screw the G.
Yeah.
And we were the guys there to say ixnay to that. We represented the yeah, we represented the taxpayers of this great nation, and we wanted to make sure everybody was getting exactly what we're paying for,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and we actually did quite a few criminal cases, international money laundering cases and that kind of stuff based on that task force work. So
Yeah.
very rewarding. It was really hard work because a lot of the records were located up in Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
all over the countryside over there, and we're trying to track down a contract, and you know, we were over there, I think, well, the war kicked off in March of '03, and I think we were designated, John Ashcroft designated us as the task force for LogCap, um, which was the contracting arm for the U.S. military, for us to investigate any allegations of fraud or anything related to LogCap. And I think that was late '03. And then I think we were over in Kuwait. I'd have to look again, but I think it was like early '05 is when we got over there. And things were, no, it might even been '04 because things were pretty, pretty jazzy then. There's a lot of snatch and grabs, and security on the post was extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
Military installations over in Kuwait. So, yeah,
Did,
interesting.
did you at ever point at any point did you ever find yourself just like, how the hell did I get here?
Absolutely. I did. I'm a small town guy from central Minnesota that went
Yeah.
to my graduating class was 49 people.
Yeah.
And here I am working these massive cases over in Kuwait and Iraq. And, yeah, I did have to pinch myself from time to
Yeah.
time and say, how the hell did I get here? What
Yeah.
am I,
Right.
can
Yeah.
I do this?
Yeah. I'm from
My
Minnesota.
pay, yeah,
I'm gonna join the IRS. And next thing you know, you're looking
yeah,
around, you're in like the Hindu Kush mountains, and
yeah,
there's gates with guys with belt fed M60s, and you're like,
yeah.
hold on. Wait.
Half my brains frozen from living up there in Minnesota on the frozen tundra, and you know, now I'm wrangling around the countryside over in Kuwait. So yeah, it was good.
That's how they take down Iraq. Is again they bring the IRS and they're like, oh shit,
Yeah,
it's the
they
tank
run for their
columns.
foxholes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. It's the M1
yeah,
Abrams and the A10 Warthogs, and they're like, man, there's the IRS
yeah,
guy. That's how they found
yeah.
Saddam. But
And there
the,
were. Go ahead.
okay, so sorry for so for like you trying to find again, like you said, phony invoices, ghost employees. It makes me think of, I didn't know this, but when Truman, before he was um it was either before he was vice president, maybe not, maybe he was vice president, but he was in charge of finding fraud within the defense industry during World War II. And they would go and find, okay, they charged for whatever 6,000 planes, but they only made 5,800 or something. Um,
Sure.
and he talked about how his like best case of his career was they started to find like the threads of something big. They found
Yep.
this in like you'll now recognize the town names, but he was like there's weird spending in Los Alamos, there's weird
Yeah.
spending in Oak
Yeah.
Ridge, Tennessee, there's
Yeah.
weird spending in Nevada, and he's seeking up on this thing and he's like they have all these they have all these invoices for billions in 1945 or 44
Yeah.
dollars, and he was like and finally he gets he's met by I think Henry Stimson, who is the Secretary of Defense, or it might have been Leslie Groves. Regardless, there was three guys in the world that knew the full scope of the Manhattan Project. Not even Oppenheimer,
Mhm.
who was designing it, but the actual full program. It was FDR. I think it was Henry Stimson, and it was Leslie Groves. And one of them went to Truman, and they're like, "Hey, you're barking up the wrong tree." They're
Yeah.
like, "Go away." And then
Yeah.
when FDR died, Truman had been president for 2 days before he found out what the thing was, and it was the bomb. I say all that to say, and I don't even know why I'm asking you because I'm now realizing it's not like you could answer. But is there anything that you were, kind of pulling the strings on, and you found something, and then some men in black showed up?
Not that bad. We did have it was very interesting on over in Iraq, um, when contractors would get paid. The U.S. military, there was no financial institutions over there. You couldn't issue checks. There's no place to go cash a check. So what did the G was paying everything? The U.S. military was paying for all their logistical support with currency. So they would. I mean, I was tracking currency, and believe it or not, you can track currency pretty good. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing, they have you can receive a printout from them on when bills were printed, when they were printed, when they were boxed up, when they were shipped to the Federal Reserve, and then from the Federal Reserve to a bank. Okay. So once they got to, say, Bank of America or whatever financial institution received it, that's where their records ended. So what we were trying to trace was people that were receiving kickbacks over in the Middle East for, getting contracts, getting issued contracts. They would bring the money back to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you get the money back? You got to bulk cash smuggle the money back. So guys were getting creative on how they were bringing money back into the United States, right? So we started intercepting some of these lots of currency that these guys were, kickbacks are getting paid, bringing it back. And so my you know kind of the alarm went off for me is, hey, what can we do? Can we see where this money went? And if it was in fact money that went to the cash that went to the Middle East. Well, we picked up the records and we saw that the money was, when it was printed in the whole series, because they were paying in hundreds
Mm-hmm.
over there. It was
Mm-hmm.
all
Yeah.
Franklin. So we could get the money when it was printed. Then everything went to the New York Federal Reserve, New York, and then from there it went over. It got loaded up on pallets. $100 million per pallet or whatever it was, and they would land at the Baghdad airport. They'd have a couple of forklifts that would come in, get the money out of the C-130, set it on the tarmac. It was all wrapped and shrink wrapped and
Yeah.
bundled, and then guys would from the units would come in that had to make payments, and they'd come in with a Humvee or something and grab 10 or 15 million dollars. The soldiers would, and then they'd run back to their base, and then the contractors that were getting paid, they would just run into the payment tent. It was a tent set up at their post
Holy
with a
shit.
suitcase. With a
Holy shit.
suitcase. Hey, you owe me 30. You owe me 175,000. Okay, throw it in, zip it up, and off they went.
Eyeball it. That looks about enough, right? It's like a
Yeah,
bartender. right? It doesn't matter if it's a bartender, but if it's like a nuclear physicist, when it's
Yeah,
hundreds of
yeah,
millions, they're just like,
yeah. So then some of these contractors were paying, you know, um, were receiving payments from the guys that were over there that wanted to get contracts, So they would get money, they would receive money as a kickback. So we were trying to determine if we could find out where they went. The money went to the reserve. Did it go over, what base it went to over there in the Middle East,
mm-hmm,
over in Iraq or Kuwait. And we started interviewing some of the military folks. And I wanted to interview one of the generals at the Pentagon who was the head of the logistics. And I said, hey, we really need to talk to this general so we can kind of figure out how all this money works. If you guys just, I wanted to know for myself how all this money worked, right? And then about 2 days later, the USA calls me and says, ain't happening. Copy. Gotcha. Gotcha. Copy.
understood.
Yeah, understood. So
I'm not trying to get JFK'd. I'll walk
yeah,
away. I don't care.
yeah. So I mean, it was just unbelievable how stuff worked over there.
That's turn off the fan. Yeah, that's terrifying. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like it's kind of funny, but like I don't know. I guess in my mind, like in my naive 30-year-old biology degree mind, I assumed that stuff kind of maybe happened in like Vietnam, right? Sending heroin
Right.
bag and
Yeah.
body bags, the whole a lot of
Yeah.
just it was all kind of hairy. I don't know why. I guess in my own naivety, I think that like it was somehow different. But the way you're describing it, it's just like you come
Yeah.
in and pull the C-130 out. Here's some ballots of,
Yeah.
a
Ballots
couple
of
billion
hundreds.
in Franklin's.
Yeah.
Come grab them.
Yeah. So come in and grab a half a bale or whatever you need at your forward operating base
I mean,
to make payments.
what the hell's even their unit? It's not like, a rubber band or a stack because I had on a guy like when I first started this podcast that used to drive armored trucks, and he was telling
Sure.
me about all the like the different ways you can just kind of glance at it and you know how much is there, just kind of different wrappings they would
Yeah.
use.
Sure. Sure.
What the hell's the metric for like a Humvee back seat? Like what metric is that?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Right.
it's about two back seats,
Yeah.
maybe a front wheel well, give or
Yeah.
take.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, I tell you, what's kind of interesting about currency and stuff is you know we would get we would get into these huge, if you'd run into a real big seizure,
Yeah.
and you would collect all the money and seal it up, and a lot of times it was so much money that we would just weigh it, and you get pretty darn close
Yeah.
on weighing money. You can get pretty darn close on how much you got just by weighing it, and,
Jeez.
and knowing what your container weighs. You get pretty darn close.
Jesus.
So yeah, yeah.
That
So
it's
until we would kind of weigh it, we'd weigh it and kind of get a number, and then get it to a bank so they could run it through the counters and give us an official tally. But that was kind of a good way to estimate what kind of currency you got, how much.
I feel like going to the Pentagon and asking that is just like that's like a shortcut to like a shallow grave. It's
Yeah,
just
they were kind of like, it's the war. We gotta, we gotta move quick. We
yeah.
gotta make payment. We gotta get stuff set up. We gotta feed the troops.
Yeah.
So I get all that, but
Sure.
at some point things settle down,
Yeah.
and you'd think you'd try to get some kind of an accounting
Yeah, right.
set up there, but
It's like college. I went to the University of Georgia, and like we drive down to Panama City for spring break,
oh yeah,
and that godforsaken town. But like, you know, it was. You're right. It's moving. It was kind of like loosely. It was like war, right? Who's
yep,
driving? Who's paying for the gas? Who's buying lunch? You get there, you don't even unpack the first night. You just go buy a bunch of liquor. It's all kind of up in the air, and it's okay, right? No one's being stingy
yeah,
about it. It's this sort of we're all here to just get blackout drunk and unsuccessfully try to flirt with girls. But after like a couple days, like, it is kind of like, okay, hey, I've spent $1,000. Like, you guys kind of got to hit
that
me back up.
that I don't have.
That I don't, that I do. I'd spent $1,000 of student loan funds that is not mine. It's, but at a certain point, you kind of got to start, going back and carry the two and see who owes what. But within the Pentagon, I mean, obviously, yeah, that means let's play devil's advocate. Sure, war starting. No one knew 9/11, right? So it's coming
Mm-hmm.
fast. We got to get over there fast. We got to get over there quick. Go try to get Bin Laden and wherever the hell he was, Bora Bora or Tora Tora, and that makes sense. But then there's also aspects, right? Because there's the black budget where like you can't know, because that is a national security issue, where you can't know how much money we're putting into this, because let's say if the Soviets were to intercept or infiltrate the IRS, and let's say
Mm-hmm.
you're a Russian or a Chinese agent and you're going into the Pentagon and you want to find out how many billions went in to the new stealth bomber, that actually is, I mean, that is actionable information, because if they know we're dumping money into stealth, well, then they know to start bulking up their I guess missile defense systems. So there is
Sure.
some, but then that's also, man, that's a tempting shield to hide behind. Oh, national security. I can't,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Love to tell you, but if I did, I'd have to terminate you.
I'd have to
Kind
terminate
of a
you.
thing.
And it's like, sir, it's like you're like at his front door. You're like, this is a personal audit. And he's like, I'm sorry, it's national security. You're like,
Yeah. Get out of here.
yeah, it's, man, that'd be an awesome card to play. But what was the most interesting or funny thing to stick out to you? Because most guests I have on, I can kind of bullshit or like fake understand, but I don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about the IRA. If Delta Force or a pilot, I can kind of pull some Cold War information. But for you, like in the first couple minutes, you've already shattered any understanding I had of the IRS. C-130 is
Mm-hmm.
a pallets full of cash. So, what what is the most unique thing you remember, or funniest thing, or scariest thing? What are the stories that, not the bullshit stories? What are the stories you tell over
Mm-hmm.
like a couple beers, where it's like, get this?
Um, Boy. Well, I mean, I've had through the course of my career, I've had
Yeah.
death threats. We had a drug dealer we were working on that wanted the prosecutor and I dead. He was going to kill us. The funniest stuff, boy, there's so much. I mean, you
Which
get
one?
into stuff and it's just, um, oh boy, let me think. Let me stew on that for a
Yeah,
minute.
don't
I'll
don't
come
don't
back
don't
to it.
don't force it. What was
Yeah.
there any was there any similar moment to, like, again, you're like, how the hell did I get here? These belt-fed machine guns looking up at the mountains, just around like goat country in the Middle East, and you're like, what the hell? I'm from, kind of like that, or the pallets of cash. Were there any other things where kind of the same absurdity, where you're watching it and you're like, is this really how it happens? Like, because I assumed that's what would happen if you went to the Pentagon and said, we need to check your bills. They would just tell you to screw off. Like, I assume that.
Yeah. 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 Um, I one of the things I guess that was kind of an eye opener for me when we were over in Kuwait. We're doing all these interviews over there. We did a massive amount of interviews in a week, and we're interviewing this gentleman, and he was with a company over there, and we take a break, and I gotta I ran and shed a tear quick, come back, and he's sitting there reading a newspaper, and he said, "Well, nothing going on this week." And I said, "Man, what are you talking about?" He says, "Oh," he said on Thursdays is public execution day in Kuwait. I'm like, no way.
Holy
He's like,
fuck.
oh yeah. He said the week before, he said had a guy had a local guy get caught with 2 kilos of coke. Caught him on Sunday, tried him on Monday, hung him on Thursday. And I'm like, no
Jesus.
way. He's like, oh yeah, Thursday's execution day in Kuwait City. right downtown. I said, "Where do they do that?" And he's like, "Oh, downtown. Everybody can go watch it.
Jesus.
It's a public square. You can go watch it."
Do they
And
sell
I'm like,
do they sell popcorn and beer?
"Oh, no beer over. There's
Oh
no
yeah, yeah,
liquor
no,
over
no,
there."
no.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Fuck.
yeah, I was like, "No way." And he's like, "Oh yeah,
Man,
yeah." And I'm like, "Damn,
yeah.
get me out of here, right?"
I mean, that's barbaric, but there's also there's like, 99.97% of me is like that's barbaric. Point
Yeah,
0.03% of me is like, man, that's a streamlined system.
yes, yeah. Blue light special on
Yeah,
that one,
right.
right?
Yeah, they snipped the red tape. It's like Reagan's wet dream. It's just like 4 days in and out. You get caught, your head is disconnected from your body, and it hasn't even been a full work week.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, I was like, no, and it was
Yeah,
just absolutely incredible. Um, the other thing that was funny for me was, so we stayed at the Hilton, Kuwait City, which was, you know, absolutely gorgeous, just a
yeah,
beautiful. We were right on the Gulf, and we're like, hey, let's meet downstairs for breakfast, right? So we go downstairs, and the breakfast was actually pretty reasonable, and it was a spread like I've never seen before. And they got eggs, and they got sausage, and they got a fruit line that's all freshly cut fruit, and veg, whatever you want, you can get it there. And I'm like, being the dork I am, Midwestern
yeah.
dude, where the hell's the bacon
Bacon.
around here? Yeah. Oh, we got beef bacon, and we got sausage. And I said, well, what's a sausage, man? Oh, that's goat sausage. I'm like, goat sausage? Yeah, try it. It's good. So I take some of these sausages. They're like the small Jimmy Dean ones. They look like dog turds. And I stuck my fork in it, took a bite, and I swear to God, I was eating a piece of dog crap. It stunk
Really?
and the flavor was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, you keep asking about bacon, man. You're gonna end up on the Thursday special.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Allahu Akbar. What happened to Brian? Well, you know,
Yeah, he had an affinity for bacon.
he had an affinity
So
for bacon, and unfortunately, he was tried as an enemy of the state.
yeah, they wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
So that was, over there, that was always a hoot. Um,
No,
there were go ahead.
no, no, you go.
No, there were times where we had, we're out doing a search warrant or something, and stuff was always goofy. Once you get into a place, you execute the warrant and you're in. That's all the high test stuff where everybody's on needles and pins
Yeah,
because you don't know what's on the other side of the door. And
yeah.
but then there's always, you know, guys having fun while they're doing it too, and so it was a great career. A great career.
What what were the guys doing what were they having fun with?
No, everything.
Is it
Everything. Oh yeah, it was, you know, search warrants were always, you gotta, who was the first one they're gonna find the sex toys.
yeah.
That was usually one of them. And it was, you're in there doing your job, you get the job done, but it was, you know, especially working with like the local drug task force guys,
Yeah.
they were local guys that were part of the part of the task force, and they're always fun to work with. Great guys.
Now, is there how do you go about something? Like, let's say you're over there on the Air Force Base or whatever, and they're bringing in just, pallets of hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, is there any like fear to be like, I'm not gonna go poking my nose around? Like, I'm just thinking of me and like, I'm a bitch. And like, if I saw like just kind of, these big pallets of cash and these spec ops soldiers and contractors and mercenaries taking their suitcase, like, I'm not gonna walk up there and be like, excuse me, what are you doing? Like, because they're
Yeah,
gonna kill me. Is
yeah.
there anything like that? Or do they know like who the IRS is? Do they recognize that power over there?
Oh, I mean, when we were over there, it was, we had we had authority on the military installations because they were U.S.
Well,
installations. So
yeah,
so they knew, you know, typically when the guys would come and get cash, the units would come and get cash. That was all just, hey, it was, maybe a lieutenant and a master sergeant or something that would come and pick up the cash. They'd whip in. Oh, hang on one sec, bud.
you're good.
Um, they would buzz in and just grab what they needed and, and then head back out. So we weren't sitting out there watching the cash go. I mean, we
Okay.
were trying to get the records and stuff put together that we, if there was any kind of, padding expenses, et cetera, on the contract.
Hmm.
So the G wasn't getting overcharged on a bunch of stuff.
Now, with things like, let's just use for example, like the most recent stimulus bill, 1.9 trillion. And I'm not taking any side on that. I'm not trying to say, oh, Democrats this or Trump that. Like I'm not even trying to do that. Whatever, right? Let's just take it. Politicians have been corrupt since the dawn of time. Let's just put that out there. With something like this, whether it's this stimulus or whether it's the stimulus under Trump or whether it's the '08 stimulus or whatever, with something like that, and you see it's nearly $2 trillion, so 2,000 billion, and then you see like a quarter of it or like half of it is going to like U.S. citizens, and then the other half is it's going to all this shit overseas. I mean, as you as like a forensic accountant or worked with them, do the hairs on your neck start going up? Are you like, that's a kickback that's going to go to some BS NGO over in Kenya, and that's going to go back to the senator who helped push it? Like, do you guys have fingers in that pie? Because to me, that just seems like the easiest way to pad your pocket. Make a stimulus check that's just bigger than the GDP of most nations. Take that, and even if you can only shave off 5% of it for yourself, I mean, 5% of $2 trillion. I mean, good Lord in heaven, like that's more
Yeah,
than you and your family will need for the next 10 generations.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, uh, of course. I mean, I've, as a former agent, working all the financial stuff, you definitely all that stuff definitely cross your mind. And I guess for me, working at so much of the international stuff that I did, it was very interesting as our investigations progressed. We saw a lot of different things going on with the cash these guys were getting kickbacks for, right? First, they were bulk cash smuggling it, basically just hiding it in luggage on their person and fly back into the States. And if you know the public out there doesn't know, if you enter or leave the United States with more than $10,000 in cash, you have to report that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to report it on a form, either departing or arriving. And if you don't, that's a problem. There's criminal implications for doing that. So we started picking off some of these guys that, early on that were bulk cash smuggling. So the word gets back over to the Middle East, hey, don't bulk cash smuggle your money back because they're picking up on us and they're looking for us.
Yeah, yeah.
So so then so then they started sending money back, right? They started sending boxes of, a FedEx box of money back to a family member. And we started picking off some of those shipments, right? So so then they got a little better. They'd go to like the local PX on post and they'd buy like a couple of VCRs,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Pull a VCR out, strip all the guts out of it, stuff it full of cash, put the VCR back together, and then send that back. Well, we started picking up on that, on the ways they were doing this stuff, and then they got pretty muy sofisticado. We would say, is these guys would go on R&R another country from Kuwait, maybe UAE,
Yeah, yeah.
and the bad guys would follow them over there. They'd go to a financial institution over there, open up a bank account. The bad guys would deposit their, all their kickback money in there, and then they would get issued a debit card, and they would fly back to the United States with a debit card that's got whatever their bank account, million, 2 million, whatever. These guys are out buying cars and, slide the card, and how many, financial transactions take place via, a debit
Yeah.
card. Um,
You can't track
Literally
it.
impossible to
Yeah.
track. And the flip side of that coin is there's no reporting requirement. You're walking back with a plastic card,
Yeah.
a debit card. There's nothing that you got to
Yeah.
report. There's no currency there.
Yeah.
So, the guys got pretty good that way. So it constantly evolved as our investigation rolled on, and I was involved with that for 7 years. So we were seeing wire transfers back, from the Middle East, from UAE, from different countries over there, to banks here, to bank accounts. People were buying houses, paying off their mortgages, uh, buying cars, all that kind of crap. So interesting trail.
But that's got to be infuriating, right? Because I mean, I think of like I was in a fraternity my freshman year of college, freshman and sophomore year of college, and like when guys wouldn't be able to like, everyone would pitch in $10 to get a
Yeah,
couple kegs, and it's
yep,
whatever. I mean, if someone didn't have the money, it's like they're your buddy. You're not going to kick them out of the party.
yeah,
But when you see it happening like 12 straight weeks, and then you also see him out at the bar spending money. It's one thing if your friend's just poor, right? Southern
yeah,
Georgia, I had some very poor friends. I'm not going to tell them, hey, you got to pay for the beer. But when they'd be like, I don't have any money, and you're like, it's fine, man, you can drink on the keg. But then we go to the bar and they're buying all the girls shots. I mean, there's some fury. You're like, what the
oh
fuck,
yeah,
man? It's
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I got to imagine there's some fury, right? If you got to go work a 9 to 5 for 40 years, and then there's just some guy that brings back a debit card linked to a bank account in Nairobi, and this
yeah,
guy gets to buy a Ferrari or just retire and not work. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yep. Oh yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
and for me, it was just kind of a, you know, we'll, we're going to catch you.
yeah,
Don't worry about that. It may
yeah,
take us a while, but we're going to get you.
yeah, right,
So there was always that kind of that justice of,
yeah,
you can run, but you can't hide kind of thing.
yeah,
And we're going to follow the money,
yeah,
and we're going to wring that towel out,
yeah.
Um,
It's like the
so yeah,
glacier
so you,
moves. Yeah,
and when you finally call them out, and you approach them, and like we always said, hey, if IRSCI comes out and interviews you, they already know all the answers to the questions they're going to ask you.
so
So don't,
they're just trying to
yeah,
catch you in a lie.
yeah. So I mean, we would go out and interview the bad guys, and we already knew all the answers, and you'd twist them around pretty good and say, well, I know you're lying to me. And here's the documents, here's the
Oh,
canceled checks, here's all this,
uh,
here's so now what do you gotta say for yourself? Oh,
well, you're a federal agent, right? So they're
oh
lying to a
yeah,
federal agent. That there's
yeah,
instant felony.
yeah, 1001 right there, yeah, they lie to you. So I went and interviewed one guy in my entire career, one guy who actually told me the truth when we confronted him. Once, one guy. And
Smart guy.
and he was a smart guy. I was on the procurement fraud stuff, and
Yeah.
he'd taken some money, and we caught him on it, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did it," and I'm like, "Okay, well, but usually it's pulling teeth and twisting
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's right. It's man, that's terrible. But you're not gonna get I mean, I think it's like a Winnie the Pooh quote. It's something, but it's if you just tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
yeah, right,
And
right,
I
yep,
mean, it's
yep,
so simplistic and idyllic, but I really do like it because it's just like I would rather just like not not do something bad because then there's no worse thing than like anxiety of knowing you did something and you're like, when are they coming? when are they
Yeah,
coming?
right. Oh yeah. When's the
Versus
shoe
just like,
gonna drop?
it's like, just pay the bill, dude. It doesn't matter if no one's watching. There's just pay the
Yeah,
bill, because there's no, I mean, it truly is a priceless thing, like your ability to just sleep at night. But like,
yeah,
I was gonna say, is there actually? Do you care if I run to the bathroom real quick? I'll pause recording.
yeah. That's fine. I got to get some earbuds replaced too.
Oh, sure, yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right.
I've had guests telling me for 384 straight episodes that that I need to drink less water. I can't hear you. Can't hear you yet. Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me. I can't hear you. Try try maybe disconnect the earbuds. I don't know if that's doing it. Nope. Um, if you go to preferences in Zoom, if you go up to preferences in the top left, sometimes Zoom will, if you can find audio, sometimes it will change your speaker to your microphone or some stupid shit to where you can't hear it. If you go to preferences, you should be able to see audio in the left-hand column, and then it will say what your speaker is. It might say AirPods. It might say, might say whatever.
There, how's that?
There you are.
Yeah, okay.
Now I can hear you.
It'll switch me off to some different codec or something.
It's retarded. It's It happened. Yeah, I tell everyone if I do several episodes without a technical difficulty, I start to get a little suspicious because
Yeah.
it so frequently messes up. But
Yep.
yeah, no, it's did your AirPods die originally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had these for like a year, and last night I actually ordered a second pair because I was finally like they die, and it's just you just kind of gotta
Yeah.
have to sit around and wait with like your your dick in your hands. You're just like, what am I
I
doing?
got I got the AirPod Pros too, which are decent.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty jazzy. They got really good noise cancellation and stuff. They're
yeah,
small.
yeah.
Um, they're nice, but I got a set of the Max, the Air Pro Max.
Oh yeah.
Those are really sweet.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
I
they're
need to. I got the originals, and I just ordered a second pair of the same ones last night, just so I can take them off and flip in the new ones,
yeah,
especially if I'm doing podcasts or something.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I need a man. There's God app man. This podcast isn't sponsored by Apple, but I guess we're gonna give them some free shout outs. God, there's. I wish they weren't so good. I
Yeah,
wish everything they made wasn't so incredible. But God, if they just don't
yeah,
suck you in like quicksand,
yeah,
it's just it's screw them. But
yep, yep.
yeah. So I don't even remember what we were talking. So I don't know anything about like really anything currency related or money, finance, anything. It's all insane to me. Is there that being said, is there any like is there any true like IRS proof uh laundering? Like if like if you were on the inside, right, and you want like James Jesus Angleton was the head of counterintelligence in the CIA for like 17 years. And when he was
Hmm.
finally fired, and this is the guy that was the head of counterintelligence when JFK was assassinated. And he opened a file on Lee Harvey Oswald 4 years prior. And it's like, what the hell did this guy know? But when he left the agency in disgrace, there's this big thing because no one knew what he was doing because he knew the system so well. His nickname was the Ghost
Yeah,
because everything he did, it was like woven into the very fabric of the structure, like the corporate outline of the agency. That he was basically like the equivalent of like walking outside of like security cameras views. He was
sure.
in the dark.
Yep, yep.
Is there anything? Is there like a way that like if you were on the inside, like yourself, and I don't know, maybe you can't say it, but is there a way where you're like, I know a way that's like true, like IRS proof, like laundering money? Is there a way to, I mean, because you kind of pointed it out, right? Go deposit a bunch of cash in Qatar and then come back with a debit card, and there's no way to,
Sure.
track it. Is there anything
Yeah.
like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, and there's a ton of different ways you could do it, and I don't want to get into a lot of
Yeah,
that, but I
yeah, I
think
don't,
you could. I think you could run a lot of,
yeah,
a lot of your stuff would be offshore, and then bringing it back in some different ways, and
yeah,
it you could do it in places where the government doesn't have any relationships with various countries, so you're kind of
North
you're
Korea.
insulated that way, so
Yeah,
there's definitely ways you could do it. I mean, I was during my career, I was a money laundering expert witness for the government, and I testified in 8 trials during my career, and consulted with a ton of agents across the country on on their casework and what they were doing, and what cases they were contemplating, charges, and you really get a full belly of all the different schemes that are out there. But typically on the money laundering side, it's the typical drug dealer kind of
yeah,
guy is, hey, I got my girlfriend, she went out and financed the car, bought the car in her name, and
yeah,
I'm paying her to make the payments, or
yeah,
you know buying money orders to buy stuff, and because two things you can do with currency, right? Spend it or save it.
yeah.
Doesn't do you any good to save it because it's just paper.
You're just losing the value. Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. So you got to spend it,
yeah,
and that's where guys get kind of creative, and when you're looking at So I teach a lot of, financial investigative money laundering courses to law enforcement over the years. And, there's the money laundering can easily be explained by a series. So it's the placement of the money. Okay. So you're placing money within the financial system somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
How you're doing that, your deposit to a bank account. Then there's layering. So what you're doing is you're maybe putting that money into a business bank account of your buddy's business, and then he's kicking it back maybe as a paycheck to you.
Okay.
So there's the layering, and then there's the integration, and the integration is the way the money comes back to you.
Okay.
And you try to make it appear as though it's from some legitimate source, although it's always from an illegitimate source, some type of illegal activity. So
yeah.
So it's there's a lot of creative people out there.
Yeah.
And it really gets challenging when you get dirty CPAs and dirty attorneys involved, because then,
Yeah.
then the muy sophisticado, these guys got stuff set up everywhere and moving money, and
yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like, was it Goodfellas?
Yeah.
Or it's like you go in, you take all the liquor from the liquor store, and then you sell it at 20% of the price, but it doesn't matter because there's 100% profit.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm laundering like $100 million, I'd have my friend, I'll become friends with someone at like a steakhouse.
Yeah.
You just go in 3 times a week and you just tip everybody, but you make sure.
One of the great movies that's out now, you've probably seen it. I know a lot of people have seen it, and I use a clip of that movie when I teach my classes. It's Shawshank Redemption. Remember when he talks about, watch that sometime, or I'll send you the clip.
Okay.
There's about a 2 or 3 minute clip where the main character and Morgan Freeman are in the library, and they're talking through the bookshelves, and he's like, "Oh no, we'll have this set up so nobody will ever be able to find this money." And how it goes through all the placement and the layering and all this kind of it was very well done. It was very well done. And so there's a few of those that do that, and movies that really kind of lay that out, and Shawshank really did a nice job with that one, on that. So I'll send you that money laundering clip. It's classic.
Please do.
Yeah.
It's because I guess the people that actually did it perfectly, you would never know that they did it perfectly, right?
They're still floating around out there, sure.
Right. It's like the perfect murder. It's like you can't know what the perfect murder was because everyone thought it was an accident or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Our motto at work was "Thank God for the dumb ones, because they're the ones we catch."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Right.
And occasionally we'll get lucky and pick off somebody that's pretty sophisticated, or if you get the low lying fruit, you can always climb the pole. Climb up and see who's on the top up there. So
I feel like another way to do it would be go into a casino.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter what you lose. Cash out.
Yeah, they do a lot of that, try to legitimize their money through casinos. Hey, I won. Okay, well, how much did you win? Because casinos track all that, and that that gets all reported to FinCEN and stuff. So they can come up with all these ways, but they definitely try to do that, though. I've seen that over the years too.
Yeah,
casinos.
Yeah, you could do that, or I guess if you bought gold in person, not from like a pawn shop, but if you just bought someone's like gold necklace off of them or something, I don't know, then maybe you did that over the years and just amassed like your own fortune of gold. But then I guess you'd have to report that, because eventually you try to cash in on the gold and they'd be like, "Where'd you get 17 pounds of gold?"
Well, here's the other thing, is we were tracking some of the guys from over our cases in the Middle East. They would buy gold. They would go buy like gold, really elaborate gold necklaces that were the gold quality over there was crazy good. And you could get it for, you could buy a gold necklace over there for 1,000 and bring it back here and be worth 5.
Jesus.
So guys were bringing, would dump off all their illicit money and gold chains and all that crap and bring it back with them, or they could piecemeal it back with them. It's not currency. You don't have to report it. You turn around and sell it on the market over here, and you converted, your illicit money that you bought at, a fifth of the cost over there.
Yeah.
And you're getting 5 times that for it over here.
Now, does it get different with something like, in full disclosure, I don't know anything about this except how to pronounce it. Is there anything that would be infinitely difficult with cryptocurrency?
Yeah, that's a whole
Is that
that's a whole animal in and of itself.
Okay. Well, I don't know anything
Bitcoin.
about it, so yeah.
Yeah, it's when I was, I retired a little over 7 years ago, and FinCEN and all the experts were trying to get their head wrapped around how does all this shit work? Because
what the hell is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very complex, and it's hard to track because a lot of it's dark web stuff.
Yeah.
And you're selling, like Bitcoin, you're selling this cryptocurrency, and it's virtually untraceable.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting, Tommy, a while back, we went out to Las Vegas, and I got some friends out there, and I was looking, and I about fell out of my chair. Most of the casinos out there will take cryptocurrency. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right?
Jesus.
I was like, no way. I mean, they could be helping the cartel. Who knows whose money that is that they're laundering.
I don't think they care.
Oh no,
They don't give a shit.
You gotta keep the lights on, baby.
Yeah, they don't give a shit, right? Was it HSBC? Didn't they? They were laundering money. They were laundering money for like the Sinaloa cartel, ISIS, Hezbollah.
When I was out in DC in 2010, I went out. I was one of 4 agents. I went out to set up the global illicit financial team for IRS, where IRS sponsored a task force targeting professional money launderers worldwide, international money launderers. And IRS had just gotten like $150 million check from HSBC as a civil penalty for that whole case. And that was like one payment. It was more than that.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And so the financial institutions around the country, have to have a real strong anti-money laundering protocol, so they don't get anti-money laundering protocol, so they don't get stuck, because a lot of them are, they don't see anything.
They're all
what's that over there on the table?
Yeah, they're all demons from hell. They're all just, so I don't think the local credit union's bad, but I mean, come on, when you're rolling through Lower Manhattan in a Bugatti covered in chrome, I mean, come on, you didn't get that from elbow grease. Maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe you did, but I mean, it's
mommy and daddy's money,
Yeah, right. It's like, I remember. Yeah, I remember I was living in the fraternity house. I remember seeing the HSBC thing on TV, and I was like, how dark can it get? And I forget who, someone said it was like HSBC stands for like Hezbollah, Sinaloa, Boko Haram, something. It was HSBC. And it's, I mean, I don't know, right? It's because they can really get away. But I was going to say, what cryptocurrency kind of seems like, and I'm realizing it as you and I are talking about it, it kind of seems like when there's like adults talking around like a toddler, right? And you like spell something out so they don't know what you're talking about. They're like, I think it's BEDTIME.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just smart people That's what cryptocurrency is. And they're just talking in a language that you and I are just like physically incapable of understanding. We're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's all about mining and algorithms and gauge theories. And you got to bring it back to you. And we're just like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
dancing around us like idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very complex stuff.
Yeah.
Crypto is, it's, you got the data miners, and I, that's something I really need to kind of brush up on a little bit, is roll up my sleeves a little bit on that.
Yeah. I'd love to. I mean, I've had guys on here try to explain it to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. No, it's so bizarre. That the cryptocurrency, some of the phone app movements of money is really
like
kind
Cash
of
App, Venmo.
Yeah, and how all the money moves about the devices, where it's stored. It's just, you just sit there and you're like, who comes up with this stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Has it got some nerd in the nerdery that's sitting there dreaming this crap up? And then the technology side of it,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at a certain point though, right? Because I think there was something a couple years back. It was a report I read, and it was like the top 1% of like MIT. Like historically, they'd always go to Raytheon or Boeing or Northrop Grumman, right? They would just go and it's be like, you're gonna make the new cutting edge killing machine. But in like the last 20 years, there's been a dramatic change with the top 1% of these classes, and they not just engineers but also like theoretical physicists. They've all gone to like Goldman Sachs because they're finding that their minds, their ability to create new propulsion engines or radar absorbing material or new quantum physics, standard model shit, they can use that as a way of creating these algorithms that can just shake even more money out of the system.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And once it gets to that point, it's like, well, how can you even track that? Because this is someone that's smarter. Again, it's right.
Yeah.
It's two tall guys playing pass, and you can't reach up there because you can't comprehend it, right?
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. It all kind of seems like bullshit, but it's like no one's smart enough to call it out, right?
Yeah.
It's like I think crypto's bullshit, and it's no one can explain why. So is there, again, and it's not anything I know about, but doesn't it always, it kind of comes out every couple years? And by the way, don't let me keep you. If you got to go at some point, let me know.
Yeah, no, I got maybe, let's go to 2:30.
Okay.
About 15 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I keep people verbally hostage and I forget it. Sometimes I'm sitting here talking.
Well, I'm just going to cut you right off there.
Good. That's what I love. I respect that. I don't want any small talk. Just be like, and you're finished, Tommy. Sorry. Hey, save your time and mine.
Hey, did you see this hat?
Yeah, John C. Stennis.
Yeah.
I was on it. You were?
Yeah. So
I recognize the name from Transformers, the movie.
Yeah. So here's the story behind that.
Yeah.
Two of my sons were Navy guys. I was an Army guy, so it was a hard pill to swallow, and my sons wanted to go to the Navy. Anyway, both were intel guys, right? And so one of them was out in your neck of the woods, and then my other one was out in Hawaii and then Georgia. And my youngest son, his best friend from training down in Pensacola, ended up staying longer because he had ship training. Well, he ended up going on the Stennis. He got assigned to the Stennis, and the Stennis deployed. They got back May of 19, so they were out 9 months. Okay. They logged over 1 million miles during 9 months of sailing.
1 million?
The world. 1 million miles. They so when they come back off their deployment, a lot of times what the Navy will try to do is they'll do what's called the Tiger Cruise. So about half of the crew from the Stennis, they pulled into Mayport, Florida. The Stennis used to be based up in Washington, up by Seattle up there. And they changed their home port to Norfolk, Virginia. So they pulled into Mayport, and my son's best friend got myself and his dad were the two. He was our escort for the Tiger cruise. So it was 4 days on the ship underway from Mayport, Florida up to Norfolk, Virginia. And I tell you what, my friend, it was absolutely incredible.
Really?
U.S. Navy there's nobody finer.
Fuck yeah.
We got on the ship. There was 80 F-18s on the ship.
Jesus Christ.
Bigger than like 80% of the 80% of the air forces in the world on one ship. We got on the ship. We went underway. We stayed in port overnight. We got up in the morning and we got underway. We pushed out these huge tugs, pushing us off the dock, and we spun it around and we took off. And we got about, I don't know, 25 miles out, and the captain comes on the loudspeaker and says, "Hey folks, we're going to do an air show for you guys. And the next, hour or so, what we want to do is we want to start getting people up on the flight deck." So they started loading up the plane lifts, and it'd be 200, 300, 400 people on a lift, bring us up, we'd walk off, and we were right up on the flight line when they were taking off and when they were landing. And they flew probably 2.5 hours air show out in the middle of the ocean. These guys on an taking off from an aircraft carrier and then landing. And we were, I kid you not, we were 15 feet from these guys when they're taking off and landing.
Jesus Christ.
You talk about rocket. Oh,
I know, right? It's something, yeah.
Unbelievable, the power. And, so they actually did a live fire thing. They had one of the helicopters went up and they had this, it's like a big bomb dummy, they call it. It's about the size of a 50-gallon drum. And it's full of stuff, and the helicopter took it out about 1.5 miles, pushed it out, and it's laying out in the ocean, and bobbing around. And then the captain comes on and says, "Okay, you're the guy that was calling the show." He says, "Take a look out about 10 o'clock off the front of the carrier. You're going to see an F-18 come in there." Did a live fire on that bomb dummy. It was so cool.
Holy shit.
Explode, yeah. Like 20 millimeter Gatling guns, and he was just lighting. It was really cool.
Jesus Christ.
It was, and we got to hang with all the guys. We got a tour of the entire ship. The only place we couldn't go was a reactor area.
Boo.
Yeah, to glow,
Yeah.
And then my son's friend was like, he's like, "Hey, Beast, they're really stepping up the chow, for the Tiger cruise." And so we go down to the galley for chow, and I took my first bite, and I'm like, "Oh my God." Worse than Army chow, man.
Jesus.
You guys are stepping it up. I'd hate to see what dropping it off would be, right?
Just pure MREs, stuff that can last 100 years.
And my hat's off to them. Those guys in the galley are literally, the galley's open like 20 hours a day.
Well, those are small cities, right? They have 6,000-7,000 people on board.
Yeah, it was like 6,400 and something on that thing. And I think we had about 1,500 Tiger cruisers, people that came on, and it was kind of fat guy in a little bunk for me. It was trying to get into that rack, it was great. It was fun. It was so neat to see. The really cool part about it was to see young people that were so patriotic and giving it their all every day. Can you imagine 9 months out at sea? And I think they hit 4 ports. They were in port 4 times for like 3 days and then back at it. So when they get into port, they get time to get off the ship, go get some chow, hang out, go out into town a little bit. And, hard working stiffs, man.
Yeah.
And they're great people.
Yeah.
All the sailors are just great.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's got to be quite an experience to go on an aircraft carrier.
Oh,
right.
So day 2, they said, hey, find a good spot to go sit, stand, whatever you want to do. We're going to show you what this thing will do. We're going to take her up to full steam.
Oh fuck.
So we were on the fantail, because our berthing area, sleeping area, was like right off the fantail. So we went out on the fantail, and they made the announcement, all right, we're taking her up to full steam. You know how fast we got going? An aircraft carrier, and I forget how much the weight of that thing is.
Yeah, millions of tons.
Yeah, we were doing over 40 knots.
Jesus Christ.
We're sitting back there, and they're like,
how the hell? Yeah,
behind that thing.
I know
Holy
it's.
cow.
Yeah, have you ever seen like aircraft carriers do like sea trials?
Yeah,
like those videos.
I've seen videos of it.
Yeah, you think they're speedboats?
Oh yeah, I know.
They're just whipping them around and.
Yeah, then he said, okay, hey, we're going to take her. We're going to go full reverse. And he said, hold on, we're going to see how fast this thing will stop. They slowed back just a little bit, and then they went full reverse. And I kid you not, I got a video of the whole thing. Within a minute, we were completely stopped. You just stood there and we're like, holy cow.
The power involved with that is just, I mean, momentum is mass times velocity. I mean, that's got to be seeing like Manhattan Island moving and then stopping.
Yeah.
That is
1,390 feet is the length of the flight deck on that thing.
Christ in heaven. That's 40 feet taller than the World Trade Center, the original.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Have you ever, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the video. I know we got to wrap up in a couple minutes, but there's this thing that was proposed in 1969 by Lockheed Martin called the CL-1201. And it was like a think tank idea commissioned by the Pentagon. And the year was 1969. And they said, what's the largest aircraft you could build with conventional materials? So current materials, being 1969. And Lockheed Martin's, they put this whole thing together, and they created an airborne aircraft carrier. And it was proposed because there's all this anti-war sentiment at home, all these anti-nuclear marches, Vietnam stepping up, it's not popular. So the thought process was, we're in the Cold War. Is there a day in the future where foreign nations kick us out of, our bases? And are there places that obviously are not reachable by water, and thus our aircraft carriers are useless?
Sure.
So the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or whoever was in charge, wanted the idea of an airborne aircraft carrier. They put together this thing. Mind you, it had a wingspan. It was 4 times wider than a 747.
Oh, man.
It doesn't look real. Its wingspan was wider than the Chrysler Building is tall. Oh. It was nuclear powered, much like an aircraft carrier. It carried 22 F-4 Phantoms. Granted, it's all on paper. They didn't build it. But the engineer said it would work. Carried 22 F-4 Phantoms, 11 inside of each wing. Not under, inside. The insides were hangars. It could stay aloft for 41 days. And I think it had a crew of 845. And it could carry upwards of 6,000 troops, much like an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was something that was actually designed, thought out, and was said to be physically possible. But they didn't build it. And I don't know what the reasoning was, but I would have loved to see it. But that just makes, I don't know, that makes me think of an aircraft where it's really got to be, that's got to be a forced projection unlike any other, right?
Oh, it's
a mobile Air Force.
When we got on the base, when we got on the Mayport down there, it's right outside Jacksonville. When we got on the base, and we met some great folks down there, just, wonderful parents that kids were in, and we got a ride in from the main gate. And we still had quite a long walk, and they were like, hey, you can't walk. We'll send shuttles up to get you guys in. And we're like, hey, they're just like, come on with us, we'll go. We got some rain earlier. Well, we walked, and we were, a couple miles away, and this thing was massive. And when you get up to it, you cannot imagine until you're standing there. I mean, I got pictures. I can send you some pictures of how massive this thing is. You got the F-18s up on the flight deck when you're standing out on the pier, look like little play toys, little matchbox things.
Yeah.
It's just massive. They have anchor. They have anchor. The links for their anchors.
Oh yeah.
1,086 pounds per link.
Jesus
and I forget each anchor was 40,000 pounds, and I forget 1,000. I think it was 1,086 feet of anchor chain too per anchor. So just the weight from the anchor and the anchor chains, I mean, they're just massive. And you're on this thing and we're like, how does this thing move?
Yeah.
How does this massive beast get around? And it's just crazy. Right now, the Stennis, when we got in, that was May of 19, we went on that cruise. And as soon as they got back to Norfolk, it went into dry dock because they had to update, they had to redo the reactors, and they do their half-life.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically 50 years on a carrier. So it was in doing their half-life, updating all the electronics, all the cabling, the reactors, probably props, all the updates to it. They should be getting ready to set sail again pretty quick here.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years. I'm like, what?
I mean, but the value of those, I mean, they are invaluable, right? I mean, I think I think Russia has one. I think China has one. I think Britain has like 2 little ones. And the United States
we got
has like
9.
Yeah.
And 2 more in work. So
yeah.
They just got the Ford going, and they're doing 2 other ones on the Ford class.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have 11.
Oh yeah, the Ford ones are, and they're just pushing the sizes of them even larger and larger.
Oh yeah, I know.
They're gonna get ridiculous. I hope to live to see like a 2,000 footer.
Yeah.
I think I will. But it's what you said is, how does this thing move? And you got to think, man, it's the most nuclear powered aircraft carriers. They're the most subtle advertising campaign for nuclear power.
Oh yeah.
No commercials, no nothing.
Yeah.
But they just, how does this thing move? And it's like, thank you for asking. Here's a pamphlet about nuclear power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They and the guys that were on there that were, the intel crew, because that's where we stayed with, because that's my son's buddy was on that side of the world. But they it was really cool because I was talking to one of the other guys that was there, Jack, and Jack was saying, hey man, one reactor, you think about 4 50-gallon drums setting together with a strap tight. That's one reactor.
Mm-hmm.
He said they're really small.
Yeah.
And he said, they got 2 of them on there, and one drives each shaft, and it's just like, how can they produce that much force?
Well, they say it would. I've had on guys on this podcast before who research nuclear power. I mean, there's a reason why Eisenhower pushed for the Atoms for Peace campaign. And there's a reason why the original slogan for nuclear power was "too cheap to meter," because I think it's something like, to run like a coal power plant, you need something like 90 train cars every day full of coal.
Yeah.
Every single day for 365 days, 90 train cars of coal equals the same of 1 day per year, half a train car of uranium.
Yeah. Right.
You can't touch it, and it's unlike anything else. But we're all ripping our hair off trying to build solar panels and windmills, which, I mean, I'm not shitting against. It's all innovation. It's all great. But I mean, goddamn, we've had nuclear power since
so inefficient.
Yeah. But it's 3:30. I said I'd let you go.
All right, man.
Thank you very much for coming on, dude. And yeah, I would love to have you back on, man. Think of some stories. Think of some.
Oh yeah.
Curate some stories. Let the good ones rise to the top, and we'll do another one.
Oh, I got. Yeah, I'll get some chuckly ones that get you rolling a little bit.
Hell yeah! And if you know anybody interesting from all of your time doing all the crazy shit you did, please recommend them to I would love to talk to them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your stories. And well, I just now I know. Now, if I didn't know before, now I know. Just don't lie to the IRS. If they come to my door, they already have everything.
Well, here's a classic story. When I was in training, brand new agent, 1991, down in Fletsy, we had an agent that was one of our instructor trainers that was from Utah, from Salt Lake City, John Smith of all names. And John was a great dude. And John was getting ready to retire, because I think he started in about 72 maybe, or 7, going back a ways. And he said, when I first was an agent and got on the job, he said, I went out with my OJI, my on the job instructor, and he was like, went out and interviewed a taxpayer, and the taxpayer was just kind of giving him a runaround and basically told him to go pound sand, and his OJI told the taxpayer, he said, well, that's all fine and dandy. He said, we're gonna find all the money, and we're gonna pin you down. And he said, if you want to play ball with the IRS, that's fine, but we're gonna stick the bat up your ass big end first.
Jesus Christ.
So you want to play, that's fine. I mean, it's your choice. But that's old school stuff. And
I mean, I guess it's kind of right. It's kind of like, it's like the glacier, right? It's like the glacier moves an inch every decade, but it will grind mountains to dust.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Just a monolith wall moving.
Yeah. And that's IRSCI. Well, I mean, we don't stop, we get in, we find that thread, and we start running with it. And wherever that thread takes you, it can take you to big things, big things.
Hell yeah.
So I never knew really IRSCI existed till I met my girlfriend, now my wife, that, one of her parents' family friends was an auditor for IRS up in Minneapolis, but he was assigned to a group of special agents, just kind of grinding numbers. Yeah, you ought to be an IRS special agent, man. Best job in the government. I'm like, huh? What? He's like, yeah. So I met some of the guys, and we did everything everybody else did. We're 1811s, which is a criminal investigator special agent. So we did all the arrest authority and, all that, just like the FBI or anybody else. So that's fun. It's a good outfit. We had a blast.
Next thing you know, you're in the Middle East surrounded by machine guns.
Yeah. We're driving onto a military installation that took us 40 minutes to get on, 4 checkpoints later, and 2:00 in the morning after we got into Kuwait, and we had to get on because the Army guys needed gas, so we had to go on the installation.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, after a day of flying. And I mean, I left here at 11 a.m. local time, and I think on Sunday, and we didn't get on the ground there till like Tuesday morning at midnight or some shit.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. Dulles to Amsterdam to Kuwait City. Like 19 hours of flight.
That's why I'm taking up podcasting.
Yeah.
my travel time is bedroom.
Yeah.
to leather chair.
Yeah.
It's a harrowing 17 seconds.
Yeah.
I gotta.
Nice.
It messes. I get jet lag. It's all that. But it's the hustle I make.
Roger.
But Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
You bet.
And it was a pleasure.
My pleasure, man. It's a good time.
Yeah, you as well. And I'll text you the link when it's up. All right.
Yeah, sounds good, bud.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. See you, bud.
Bye-bye.
Bye.